Blood, one of the most important things in a human body, that is responsible for keeping us alive by transporting everything we need to survive. But in today's video, we'll be talking about Resident Evil. Well then, let's see. Blood combines with scrap metal to craft essential survival items.
Well, that's special.
The first time I was playing the game, the biggest question was, how does this blood even work in this game? And with this, I present you with, in my opinion, everything you need to know about the blood in Resident Evil Requiem. The blood found in the game isn't just ordinary blood, it's infected blood. More precisely, it's of the mutated T-virus variety. If administered in small doses, a person can suddenly become confused, outraged, and aggressive. Because guess what? They just became a zombie. We can see this happen on the streets next to the Renwood Hotel as Dr. Victor Gideon uses his dart weapon to quickly infect surrounding people, creating a distraction for him to escape with an unconscious Grace. The infected blood has to be quite special, in a sense that it's hard to harvest. Judging from this note here, Subject 170 record. Extracted a 2.3mm sample from the 524.3 liters of blood collected from 115 infected. All of this blood was from infected people. However, only a very small sample was harvested, which was later used on Subject 170, aka Marie, aka the girl, which led her to mutate into a horrible monster. This begs the question, if only a small sample is required to turn a little girl into a monster that is 10 times her size, how much infected blood do you need to only turn into a regular infected? Since Marie was only a little kid, it would make sense that her body is way weaker and more susceptible to infections. Now, if we were talking about a grown adult who's much stronger, it would make sense that they would need a bigger dose of the infected blood to mutate further. Something that is also worth mentioning is that the people that are infected with the mutated T-virus strain retain their pre-infection habits. For example, a maid cleaning a bathroom, a chef trying to prepare some food, or even the girl playing with your dead body as if you were a doll. This memory within the blood is the main focus of the game, since Dr. Gideon together with the connections tried to solve Spencer's last puzzle, which is, what is the password to unlocking Elpis? Spencer was the only person who knew that password, and together with his research notes that are seen here, cells within the blood contain multitudes of information, including factors tied to memory. Thus, since the T-virus grants us control over factors within the blood, it can be hypothesized that harnessing those same elements will allow us to transfer memories from superior individuals. However, for such a procedure to succeed, the host must be able to withstand the toxicity of the mutated T-virus strain while preserving their own intelligence. Created a narrative that Grace had his blood, which in turn meant that his memories and the password were residing in Grace's mind. That's why Gideon was so obsessed with the infected blood and Grace, because it was almost like a key in unlocking Elpis. However, we all know that Grace was perfectly normal and that she was Spencer's atonement, a final good deed to maybe help a little in outweighing all the bad that he's done. If you're enjoying the video, how about you drop a bloody like and subscribe to the channel? The support means a lot. Whilst Grace wanders around the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center, trying to find a way of escaping the place, she encounters a lot of infected that were not even that long ago patients and staff of the care center. Putting them down requires a lot of ammo that is not that commonly found here, but what is pretty abundant is the buckets and pools of infected blood everywhere. At first, it doesn't seem like it could be used for anything. However, in the blood lab area, Grace can find a device and a note next to it, reading blood compound synthesis. The custom blood collector that Dr. Richardson ordered has finally arrived. Combining infected blood with our experimental substances has been such a challenge for us, but this device makes it so easy. This is sure to improve the efficiency of our blood research and speed up analysis for further mutation patterns. The device is simply a blood collector. It sucks up the infected blood, and together with the various blood specimens found and analyzed by Grace, she has the ability to craft various items. For example, med injectors, stabilizers, and more importantly, ammunition. It really isn't explained how this works. However, since the infected blood from the mutated T-virus strain is highly volatile, it could maybe replace regular gunpowder. Now for medicine, the medicinal properties of the green herbs are known to be effective, and combined with the infected blood could improve its healing capabilities even more. Now, with the replenishable source of ammo, it's time to take care of the various other infected around the care center. In Grace's situation, there are the blisterheads, the singers, and Chunk. Blisterheads are an uncommon side mutation. It happens when there is a sudden change in red blood cell patterns. The strong tumor spreads from the head across the body. That's why they're pretty hard to kill. The stingers are less of a mutation and more a side effect of the person they were prior. They had some of their cranial nerves removed, resulting in a disorder described as main character syndrome. That's why they sing to basically be in the spotlight. And finally, there's Chunk. Timothy and Thomas Jackson both underwent a surgery that suppressed their satiety, resulting in an abnormal case of overeating and weight gain. Thomas was a lot more shy and kept to himself. However, Timothy often got very aggressive if he didn't get any food, and he's the one that swears at Grace whilst trying, emphasis on trying, to chase her down. Coming back to the blood collector, on the surface it looks like a simple device. There's the suction part that collects the blood into a vial which seems to be around 8.5 milliliters, which is basically the standard for blood tests, and a button that when pressed starts the suction process. Now something out of the place and not easily explained is the digital screen on the body of the device. It seems to be arranged in a pattern on a microscopic level which could resemble the mutated T-virus strain sample pattern. The device is programmed or arranged in a way that it only collects parts of the blood that has the T-virus in it, hence why from huge buckets of infected blood you can only gather small samples. The device in itself is already a massive improvement, since it can detect and collect bigger samples of the mutated T-virus. Before, the researchers could only gather a measly sample of 2.3 milliliters out of over 500 liters of infected blood. For crafting purposes, this is obviously great. However, from an ethical perspective, this is absolutely horrifying. The blood collector is upgradable. It has the ability to hold a bigger vial. It increases the capacity by 50, which in turn holds more blood at a single time. The upgrade can be found in the parlor room area, locked behind a hefty price of 6 antique coins. However, the upgrade is totally worth it, because crafting and resource management becomes much easier, not to mention how much less backtracking you'll need to do. Once you finish the game, you will be rewarded with challenge points that you can spend to purchase the Motsuoka Master Manual, which also increases the blood collector's capacity by 50 from the start of the game. So in total, you can have double the capacity for the blood collector if you get both upgrades on the next playthrough. Personally, from my first playthrough, I tried to collect and craft everything. This obviously required quite a lot of blood, so I tried my best to collect as much as I could. At the end of the game, the achievement called Bloodlust tracked all of the blood that I collected from that playthrough, and it was around 3,200 units. We know that a vial of blood from the blood collector has the capacity of around 8.5 milliliters, without any upgrades. So in total, Grace collects roughly 32 times 8.5 is 272 milliliters, which is basically half of a standard blood donation. As mentioned before, infected blood is everywhere. It's just sitting there for the taking. There are puddles and buckets of blood. It can also be extracted from killed infected. There's always a random amount that they will give, sometimes 20, sometimes 30 units. In the collection pool area, there's a lot of samples that can be harvested as well, though I'm not sure if the yield is more when the message reads, "There is a ton of blood," instead of "There is a lot of blood," after draining the pool. Underneath the care center, we can't forget about the huge blood facility that was destroyed by Gideon. Unfortunately, there isn't much time to collect the blood because you're too busy getting your ass out of there. Before it's destroyed, taking a closer look, it seems that people are forcefully infected and stored into a pot of sorts that sucks all the infected blood and something else, and then it stores it all into a bigger container. What that something else is still a question. And that should be everything that is worth covering about the blood in Resident Evil Requiem. In short, it's a crafting material, a puzzle mechanic, and a story device. There are still a lot of unknowns, but with the upcoming DLC, maybe we'll get some answers. See you in the next one.